Back to Bitcoin is Freedom. I'm Paul McNeil, your neighborhood crypto curator. I curate news information all week long. I've had quite the job to do it. But let me kick off by start saying this show is being sponsored by Roundly X. If you guys know, every week we talk about Roundly X. Why? Because it is such a phenomenal way for you to quote unquote stack sats. You connect your debit card, credit card to Roundly X, and every time you purchase something, they round up that purchase in Satoshis. So it's all done in the background. You don't even pay attention to it. Many years in the future, you'll come back and you'll have a lot of Bitcoin as a result. So if you go over to Roundly X and you put in Bitcoin is Freedom, they're going to give you $4 in Bitcoin. Okay, let's get on with the show.
Here we go.
Let's get started.
All right, folks, here we are back again. It's Sunday. Bitcoin is freedom. As you guys know, I've said all the time, it's what I believe. In addition to Roundly X, there are some other brands that I like to mention really fast that I love these brands, and that's why I mention them. Super Coffee is one of them. It gives me positive energy every week when I drink it. It's really good stuff. If you take a look at Kite, that's a great new way for you to rent cars. If you take and rent a car with Kite, they bring it to you, and you can drop it off wherever you want. They'll pick it up, and it makes it super easy. Forward, of course, is the bigger one, guys. Your health is so important. And so this is a new way to do medical, right? I'm a big advocate of preventive care is better than corrective care. And so when you're being preventative, you're taking steps to proactively look at your health. And that's what I want everybody in Bitcoin to do, because Bitcoiners, listen, we need you around for a long time. We don't need you guys to expire before your time is really up. So go over to Go Forward. Check them out. And then Unchained Capital, guys, you know this is the best way for you to hodl your Bitcoin. If you're hodling Bitcoin any other way than Unchained Capital, probably not doing it right. Why? Because you have to think about this, estate planning. What happens if you pass away tomorrow? If you have your Bitcoin on a ledger and you were the only one who had access to it, bye-bye Bitcoin. Unchained Capital use multi-sig. They use 3 keys. You have one, your loved one has a key, and they have a key. Takes 2 of the 3 to move your Bitcoin. That's why you should check them out. Okay, let's get on with the show. Guys, listen. And I've said that I'm going to try not to mention the name that everybody is talking about right now because I'm really over it. I've had so much of the story. As a curator, you can only imagine it's been dominating the news cycle, and it has literally driven me to not want to curate information. And if you've been paying attention to some of my briefs, you'll know they've been getting wonky. Why? Because I've just been flooded with news of this event. So I decided today, being that it is Sunday, talk about something else, something that can help you out in this time. And I call it peace in the midst of the storm. Guys, we are going through a storm. But let's take a look at these words that I have, peace in the midst of the storm. So if we look at peace is what? This is from a definition out of Webster. It says it's the absence of war or other hostilities. And that's not the kind of peace I'm talking about. Actually, it could be, but not directly. An agreement or a treaty to end hostilities? Maybe not so much. Freedom from quarrels and disagreement. Harmonious relationships. And this is probably the one I'm talking about most. And you're not going to understand what I'm talking about because I'm not talking about peace with other people. I'm talking about peace with yourself. A lot of people right now in crypto are reeling from what's happened over this past week and a half. A lot of people have been hurt so bad as a result of the previous events that's been going on. And it's been tough. And I'm sure they are at war within themselves. They're probably asking themselves, how could I have been so stupid and not realize what I was getting myself into, getting my firm into, getting my investors into? It's a lot of struggle. And there is really a war going on inside of the minds of so many people that I looked up to, people that I trusted, people that I believed in, people that I listened to. And if you guys know, actually it was last week, on Saturday, or actually Sunday, that I published an article called "Who Do You Believe?" Who can we believe in this time right now? Because everybody was supporting this brand. Everyone was talking about this brand. Every influencer was pushing this brand. And all of a sudden, the brand topples, and we're left puzzled, asking these really, really tough questions. Now, that's the war that I'm talking about that's probably going on inside the hearts and minds of many Bitcoiners and crypto people right now. And then let's take a look at what storm is. Storm is three of these different definitions, and I'm going to pick the one that most resemble what we're going through. It's not an atmospheric disturbance manifested in strong winds accompanied by rain, snow, and other precipitation, and often by thunder and lightning, although all of that can be characterized of what the crypto market's going through right now. A wind with a speed from 48 to 55 knots, or 55 to 63 miles an hour, 89 to 102 kilometers per hour, according to the Beaufort scale. Not really that either, although it is quite windy in crypto. A heavy shower of objects such as bullets and missiles. That's probably what I'm talking about. The bullets and missiles that are coming toward people right now. It's a brutal storm. And I use a lot of these analogies, but really, can we find peace in the midst of this storm? I think we can. Listen, crypto's been through a lot of storms, and to be more specifically, Bitcoin has been through a lot of storms, right? If you look at this page right here, on the next slide, there's been a lot of storms that crypto has been through. And if you have been around for a while, you've been through these storms. I have seen all of these storms up front and personal. I became aware of Bitcoin back in 2011, and Mt. Gox happened shortly after, and that was tragic. Had a lot of us asking, can Bitcoin survive this? Then we had the Bitcoin Savings and Trust in August of 2012. Mt. Gox again appeared in 2013. That's the one that took it down. China's banning Bitcoin in December of 2013 and forever, right? They've been banning Bitcoin. They used to say this whole meme about China getting on the phone saying, hey, banning Bitcoin, right? And then the market falls, and they do it again, and the market falls, and they do it again, and the market falls. And they're like, hey, it works every time. Let's keep doing it, right? Block size wars, that caused problems for Bitcoin. The Japan coin check hack, and the CBOE CME, which a lot of people don't talk about and mention, but I think that played into the fall from 20,000 back in 2017. The global pandemic, of course, many of us know how that turned out. Tesla saying they're going to stop accepting Bitcoin. That had an impact on the market. China decided to ban Bitcoin mining altogether. That had a brutal impact on the market. And then most recently, just this year, we've been hit with a double whammy of bullets and missiles, right? With the Terra Luna collapsing and FTX fiasco. Folks, listen, where can we go and find a safe haven, right? Now, when we look at the definition of safe haven, it says, and this is from Investopedia, a safe haven is a type of an investment that is expected to retain or increase in value during times of market turbulences. Investors seek out safe havens in order to limit their exposure to losses in the event of market downturns, and we've been in a market downturn. However, what assets are actually deemed safe havens can vary depending on the specific nature of the down market. That means in order for an investment to act as a safe haven, investors must perform ample due diligence. Now, another term that we hear associated with Bitcoin is a store of value, right? And here's what Investopedia says a store of value is. A store of value is essentially an asset, commodity, or currency that can be saved, retrieved, or exchanged in the future without deteriorating in value. In other words, to enter this category, the item acquired should, over time, either be worth the same or more. So now with that being said, this is what, and I wrote an article, and I probably should have tagged it here, and I probably will. There was many people talking about Bitcoin being both a safe haven and a store of value. And at the time, a lot of the stuff was published. Bitcoin was performing well, so it looked like a safe haven. But was it really? In reality, it's not. Listen, by that definition, I don't know of anyone who could say Bitcoin is a safe haven. I believe we can say that it is a store of value. Why? Because if you look, it didn't give any time frame there, did it? No, it didn't. That definition said nothing about time. But it did say, and let me go back to it again so I can make sure I say it right. It says either be worth the same or more, right? Exchange in the future, in the future, in the future. Bitcoin, when it came into existence, was $0. And in the future, today, it's worth what? $16,000. So in reality, if you were holding Bitcoin from the very beginning, and God knows if anybody is still holding Bitcoin since the very beginning, good on you. This has fulfilled the definition of store of value because it was 0 to $16,000. If you bought Bitcoin at $69,000 and it's $16,000 a day, is it a store of value? Many will say, no, it is not a store of value because it has lost a significant amount of value. However, comma, I would still say in the future, this asset's going to be higher than 69,000. So it would still fulfill the store of value based on the time frame that you have. And this is where it becomes critical for all of us to manage our expectations about what this asset is and what it is not. If you're someone who is looking to do something quick with Bitcoin, you got the wrong asset. Bitcoin is not going to provide you anything in the short term. Yeah, I mean, if you could get lucky and you could have bought it at, but let's say 20 and sold it at 69 at the very top, good on you. You just made a lot of money. But the reality is none of us are really that skilled to do that. Why? A lot of us, myself included, bought into the hype of 2021 that by the end of 2021, Bitcoin was going to be $100,000. That's what we all bought into. We all believed that. We all followed that mantra. Laser eyes until what? 100,000 K. Not many laser eyes on Twitter anymore, is it? Nope. Almost all of them are all gone. If there's still some laser eyes, kudos again for you for holding those laser eyes. I took mine off. So if you could hold for the time and then exit at the right time, that store value narrative, I think, prevails. But if you don't, unfortunately, even that narrative doesn't hold as a quote unquote store of value. So now, in order to have peace in the midst of the storm, we have to look at hope. Why? And I'm not asking people to be on hopium, and I'm not saying that you should be on hopium, but let's look at the definition of hope. It's an optimistic state of mind, an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes with respect to the events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. This is the way that I live my life daily, with hope. Hope that things will get better. And my hope is that within this whole market that we have, and again, there is Bitcoin, then there is everything else. My hope is in Bitcoin. Why? I have an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes. I believe that Bitcoin will recover. A lot of people are coming to me today saying, hey, Paul, what do you think, man? What do you think? Are we going to make it? Is Bitcoin going to make it? Right? A lot of people are asking that question again. Is Bitcoin dead? 99 Bitcoins tell you that Bitcoin's died, what, 500 and something times? Folks, since inception to today, 14 plus years, Bitcoin has continued to do what we say, tick tock, next block. It just happens. The blockchain has never stopped. The blockchain will never stop. And you say, well, Paul, that's a bold statement to say it will never stop. It will never stop because it is a decentralized censorship system that has continued to run with a 99.999% uptime in the last 14 years. What can possibly derail Bitcoin's blockchain from tick-tock next block? Every 10 minutes, Bitcoin comes into existence. So this is what you have to understand. Hope in a system like that is not naive, and it is not on being on hopium. Hopium is me believing in the short term, Bitcoin's going to go back to 69,000 next month. That's hopium. That's not reality. There's a difference between possible and probable. It's possible that that could happen. It's not probable, right? So, but that's not what I'm putting my hope in. My hope isn't in price movement. My hope is in the actual technology. I don't have to depend on man. I can depend on math. That's what we've been told. The developers that are working on the Bitcoin blockchain, the software that runs that most valuable network in the world, it continues to go on and it continues to happen without fail. And it's a system built in such that it can do that without fail. So that's what hope is. Now, I introduce another term because I think these terms come into being able to have peace in the midst of the storm. Hope is a key component, but faith is also. Now, again, this is Sunday, and I know some people that might watch this might be religious, and some of you might not be religious. Some of you might be atheists. Some of you might be agnostic. And that's not really the faith that I'm talking about, even though I will quote scripture on this one. The definition of faith, and I decided to use this term because it embodies what I'm trying to get to. Now, faith is the confidence of things hoped for, back to my word hope, and assurances about what we do not see. So I can't see what Bitcoin is going to do in the future, but I have faith, a strong amount of faith that what's been built is going to last. And if you're not familiar with the book Built to Last, it's a great book to read. It's also Good to Great, was written by the same author, but Built to Last, right? Bitcoin was built to last, not only for a decade, multiple decades, multiple generations, most likely. So can you truly have peace in the midst of the storm? Well, the next slide tells me that confidence is part of that. Now, if you've ever met a confident person, you will know that they have a certain amount of swag behind them, right? But here's the thing is, and I'm not even talking about swagger at this point. What I'm talking about more is the boldness that you can have when you're truly confident about something. And the way to be confident is that you just know. Could you imagine if you could go 2 years into the future and see what was going to happen and then come back to the present? Tell me you would not be confident. Let's take a look at confidence. Here's the definition, Webster. A belief or conviction that an outcome will be favorable. Belief in the certainty of something, and belief in the effectiveness of one's own ability in one's favorable acceptance by others, self-confidence. So again, confidence for some people in this storm has been wrecked beyond belief. But some of the people, even though they've been completely wrecked, I believe they're confident in their abilities to recover, right? Favorably. I think that even in this market, as horrible as it is, I believe a lot of us can have confidence. And now my confidence, again, lies in Bitcoin. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. Listen, Cardano, Solano, Polkadot, right? Litecoin. There's a lot of projects out there that very well might survive and do well. I'm not taking anything from them. But what I'm saying is that my true confidence lies in Bitcoin. And if you truly understand Bitcoin and have read the Bitcoin white paper and understand the inner workings, and let me tell you right now, I will admit I am not a techie and I cannot sit down and educate you word for word of the Bitcoin white paper on the technology that's there. But my confidence is built by the last 14 years of flawless execution from the Bitcoin blockchain. That's where my confidence is. My confidence is in the system that's been built around Bitcoin that's allowing it to last. Listen, we've got a country that is buying Bitcoin and put Bitcoin in their books. We've got countries where their currency has been wrecked beyond belief, and they are depending on Bitcoin. They use Bitcoin. They leverage Bitcoin. This system continues to go on regardless of what China has decided to do with Bitcoin mining. We watched that in real time. And anybody listening to me probably watched in real time as China said, shut down the mining. And what happened? The miners said, scoop them up, send them to Texas. For the most part, right? Texas has now become the mining capital of the world. Why? Because Texas became friendly to miners and they understood the opportunity. And this is what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin says, go ahead, government, whoever you are, try to shut us down and watch what happens. It is a true Kraken. You cut one head off, another one grows in its place. And that's just the way it works. This is why you can have confidence, hope, faith in Bitcoin, because this is a system that was built. And whoever it was, we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Is it an individual? Is it a group of people? We don't know. I had a conversation about this in one of the most recent Dallas meetups, and we were talking about, well, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? My good friend Gerald Vata at Quantum Economics, right? He wrote a paper saying he knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Probably, maybe, probably wrong. Nobody's going to know. And it's done with good reason. Bitcoin doesn't have anyone controlling it. It's controlled by the people, right? By the miners, by the nodes, by the developers. And they're all spread out, decentralized, cross-country, different continents, right? How powerful is it that you have this system? And it's in space too, right? Blockstream put up a satellite beaming down the Bitcoin blockchain. It's unstoppable. And this is what people in this storm might not understand. And they might be a little jittery. They might be teetering saying, I don't know, Paul, it's looking really bad. They're saying that Bitcoin can go to 13.5. They're saying Bitcoin can go to 10. They can say Bitcoin can go to 8. Paul, what happens? I think it was an article that said something about Michael Saylor will get liquidated if it gets down to 3,500. What happens if Bitcoin goes to 3,500? Will it survive? I say, yeah, it'll still survive. Why? Because there's so many things going on with Bitcoin that's going to make it survive because of the belief, the hardcore confidence, hope, and faith in Bitcoin is what's going to allow it to survive. Now, on the next slide, we're going to look at what this show is named of. Bitcoin is freedom. Why? Out of all of those things I just talked about, this is why Bitcoin is freedom. Because it gives us the ability to act or change without constraint, or to possess the power and resources to fulfill one's purposes unhindered. Now, that's a mouthful, but this is what Bitcoin embodies in us, because it does give us the ability to act and change. One of the things that Dr. Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is he says, well, be proactive. And proactivity is not being busy. That's not being proactive. Proactive is recognizing that you have the ability to choose your response to any situation in life. Bitcoin tells you the same thing. Bitcoin says you have the ability to act or change without constraint. And I believe it was Beauty on, I think that's the way you pronounce him. He was talking about what Bitcoin is and how Bitcoin doesn't ask you. Actually, I take it back. It was not. It was the gentleman from Swan Bitcoin. But he says Bitcoin doesn't ask you to choose it. It says, hey, take a look at me, do your research, educate yourself. If I am in fact good, then use me. But if I'm not, then don't. Right? This is the beauty of Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't forces you to do anything. And that's what we have to realize is Bitcoin gives you the option. It gives you the ability to act or change without constraint. It also gives you the ability to possess the power and resources to fulfill your purposes. Whatever your purpose is in life, especially when you start looking at what Bitcoin has the potential to do. And again, I believe my good friend Mark Yusko, right? He says Bitcoin has the potential, and it's probable that Bitcoin will reach 100,000 by the year 2024. And I'm on board with them on that. I think that that's plausible. I think that's probable that that's going to happen. Why? It's going to give us time to recover. The halving is going to come into effect. And I think we'll have a better economy at that time. Things will recover. We're not going to stay in a bear market forever. So this thing will ultimately recover. And when it does, Bitcoin's going to perform incredibly well. Now, in addition to that, we've got another person out there, and I'm not taking pot shots at Tim Draper. Listen, Tim Draper is by far smarter than I am. The guy's got way more money than I do, and he's obviously much more successful than I am. But he says he thinks that Bitcoin is going to be 250,000 by the year 2023. And I went out and I continue to hammer on Twitter, and I'm like, that's irresponsible. You can't say that. As a matter of fact, his first prediction was by the end of year 2022. That's good. If we can get to 250,000 by the end of this year, folks, let me tell you what, I think a lot of us are going to be incredibly happy. And I think a lot of the stuff that's happened will be resolved, right? But that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That's foolish to keep thinking and saying, tripling down on a 250K prediction. Now, I will have to give credit because in his last interview, Tim Draper did not put a timeline. He just said it's going to reach 250K. I can sign up with that. I believe that. I think it's going to reach 250K too. When? I don't know, but it will not be in 2023, and it definitely might be in 2024. That's where hopium comes in. I'm not on hopium. I have hope, not hopium. I understand that there are market forces, and this thing, who knows what it's going to do. But in the long term, it's going to do well. Now, in the long term, if you're making long-term projections, if you have long-term goals, you have purpose for long-term, Bitcoin is by far the best place to be. It is that store of value long-term. Taking snippets of time trying to prove its value is not wise. I continue to go back to $0 to where it is today. Until it gets back to $0, it's a store of value, because it did what? If I go back to store value, it said it's either worth the same or more, the same or more. If Bitcoin's worth $0, that's the same, right? Or more. If it's worth $2, that's a store of value, because value wasn't deteriorated. What's happening to the US dollar and other currencies around the world is that it's going from zero to negative, right? That's not a store of value. It doesn't work that way, and neither should it. Okay, so now let's take a look at this, because I've had people ask me this question about, well, Paul, if Bitcoin's going to survive, well, who's buying? Good question, right? Who's buying Bitcoin at this price? It's going from 69,000 all the way down to 16. Who in God's name would be buying Bitcoin? A good friend said, what, buy when there's blood in the street, even if it's your own? El Salvador is buying blood in the street, and it is their own, right? Because they bought Bitcoin way in the lofty 50K range, and it's down to 16. They're buying. As a matter of fact, 1 Bitcoin every day. Justin Sun came out as a result of watching what Nayib Bukele did and said, guess what? We're going to buy 1 Bitcoin every day. Could you imagine if this trend caught on and a lot more institutions, a lot more organizations said, you know what, we'll sign up for this one. We're going to buy 1 Bitcoin every day. And somebody else says, hey, we'll do it. We'll buy 1 Bitcoin every day. We could very well see ourselves get into an environment where there are hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin being bought every day as everyone's signing up for this. Let's buy a Bitcoin every day. That would have some impact on the market. That could change things, right? Someone's got some type of confidence. You might say, well, Paul, come on, a Bitcoin a day. Come on, seriously. That's not a lot of money for that country. That's like, but it's DCA. And listen, sometimes I'll buy $100 worth of Bitcoin every day. Sometimes I'll buy 100 every week. It's not a lot, but it's something, right? Buy Bitcoin continuously. Why? Because Bitcoin is the true place to be. I was going to say it's a safe haven. I had to back myself off this. And I said store of value. It definitely is a store of value. And it's where you can store your value so that over time you can benefit from that, right? You got institutional investors during this storm, $42 million of inflow. Probably that's not a lot of money. That doesn't move the needle. Get it. But institutions are signaling something by buying Bitcoin. Arthur Hayes says that he's ready to buy at 10K, right? If Bitcoin gets to 10K, you're going to see not only Arthur Hayes buy, you're going to see a lot of people deploy some dry powder at that level. Why? Guys, you're getting a good deal. You're getting a deal. This talk about discount. This is the discount of a lifetime. Why? Because Bitcoin once was trading at almost $70,000, and now it's all the way down to 10, and you're not going to buy any? listen, I don't advocate anybody. Number one, this is not financial advice. If you're listening to me and you're taking this as financial advice and you're saying, well, you know, that Paul crypto curator said buy it at 10, then that's on you, boo. That's not on me. Do not listen to me to determine your own buying strategy. That's not what I'm saying. For myself, I'm saying, you know what? I would buy at 10, and I think it's a wise thing to do. Is it wise for you? Whole different story. Okay, so I want to clear that up before someone comes back and goes, well, the crypto curator said buy at 10, now it's down to 8. I can't believe he told me that. Or I bought at 10, it's down to 5, and I can't believe he told me that. All right, well, I just want you to also have the same thing that when it gets to 100, you'd be like, you know, the crypto curator told me to buy at 10, it's 100. Yeah, you could throw me some Satoshi. Maybe at that point, you could throw me some Bitcoin probably. Just kidding. But I'm trying to make a point is that there are people that are buying now, and I think it's something that people need to pay attention to consider if it's good enough for them. Go talk to your financial advisor. And if your financial advisor doesn't know about Bitcoin, shame on you, because you should have been told them already, should have orange pilled them already. And if they just refuse to listen to you, then you probably want to decide to get a new financial advisor. Just saying. Okay. All right. Beside buying Bitcoin, you can also earn Bitcoin. I believe it was Andreas Antonopoulos said it's better to earn Bitcoin than to buy Bitcoin. I've got a couple examples on here. If you're doing purchases, right? Everyday purchases, round up. This is who the sponsor is. Round up your purchases in Satoshis. And you might think, Paul, seriously, 50 cents here, 50 cents there. Who cares? It's not a lot of money. Not today. Those same Satoshis in the future might be worth a lot. So keep rounding up your purchases and keep stacking those sats. And then you can do affiliates. There's a lot of companies out there right now that will pay you to onboard people to the platform. Strike is one of them. If you were taking refer people to Strike, then they'll give you $5. Sometimes they bump that to $10. If you keep paying attention, I guess when times get really good and they really want to get people on board, they'll bump it to $10. $10 for them and $10 for you. That's $20 they're paying to acquire a new user, but they're paying in Bitcoin, right? And there's a ton of other companies out there that will do referrals, do referral marketing, affiliate marketing. Jump on board with them. It doesn't require any extra effort. And if you've got a network and people will eventually take and sign up for these platforms based on your recommendation, you get compensated for it in Satoshis, which is the most powerful thing you could possibly get today, right? Okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin, and I'm going to sort of summarize this a little bit just so that you can get an idea of what I've been talking about. Bitcoin is freedom. Everybody should understand that. Is it a safe haven? I say no. I'm sure people will debate me on that. Sure, people will tell me I'm incorrect. I don't know what I'm talking about. I understand. I don't think it's a safe haven. Is it a store of value? That's yes, but also there's a caveat there, right? It depends, time frame, right? But the whole definition of store of value is in the future, so you need to be looking at the future price of whatever the asset is, and that's how you can determine. Depending on your time frame, if it was last year at this time and this year at this time, yeah, you're out, right? Because it did not prove to be a store of value in that 1 year time frame. But again, no one who deals with Bitcoin should be looking at a 1 year window. If you're looking at a 1 year window, you got problems. Why? Because Bitcoin operates on a 4 year cycle. So you should be even looking at 3 to 4 years. The moment you enter Bitcoin, factor in 3 to 4 years before you even think about doing anything with it whatsoever, because that's the way the cycles work. Now, again, back to Tim Draper. He makes this statement about women and retailers using Bitcoin or making Bitcoin price go to 250. I disagree. Why? I've heard this narrative for a long time about the use of Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. Folks, it is not going to happen today, and it's not happening tomorrow, and it's probably not happening in the next 5 to 10 years for Bitcoin to be used as a medium of exchange in the US and developing countries. Let me clarify that, because people say, well, Paul, that's not true, because in developing nations, they do use Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. They absolutely do. And you would be absolutely correct to correct me on that. They do use it. But here in developed nations, we're not going to be using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange anytime soon. And when I say we, I'm talking the collective. Are there some people in the US that's using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange? Probably yes. They probably spend it and they probably use it because they want to live on Bitcoin and use Bitcoin. I get it. Collectively, Generally, no, not yet. Not yet. I don't think so. But you can have hope, faith, and confidence in Bitcoin because at the very end of the whole deal, like I said, Bitcoin really is freedom. It's giving us the ability to opt ourselves out of a system that has the potential and in some cases actually control the masses. If you're living on a Bitcoin standard, you're no longer going to be controlled as much by the system than you would be otherwise, right? And this is what we're getting to. We're starting to see more and more countries become authoritarian, controlling, especially if they control the currency. I know my producer, Nick, will love this. But again, when you're looking at CBDCs, they have the ability to control the money. And if they control the money, they ultimately might be able to control you based on what your relationship is with money. If you have an unhealthy relationship with money, you are in trouble because they can control you. Get a healthy relationship with money, get a loving relationship with Bitcoin, and you might have a chance to really thrive and survive in these coming days. But if we don't, then I think we could find ourselves subject to the controls and whims of governments. Bitcoin solves this. Bitcoin got us out of the crap that was going on with the bank collapse, hopefully in the money printing. Hopefully Bitcoin will continue to be that escape valve for many around the world, not only in the US and developing nations, but globally. And we're seeing that happen as I speak. So I want to make this one short and sweet for you guys because, again, if you are interested in listening to all the crazy nonsense news that's going on now with this storm, I'll call it a storm. This is sort of like COVID. Remember when we couldn't say COVID? The storm that we're in, I think that you guys can turn on any YouTube channel right now, listen to any podcast and read any news article, and I bet you the three initials will pop up. You know what they are, both in the name of the person and the name of the company. They'll mention it everywhere, all day, every day. We can't get enough of talking about them, but I'm sick of them, right? It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous situation. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I tried to bring you guys something else. Hey, listen, in addition, the show that came on before me, Gingerly, those guys did a phenomenal job at talking about some aspects of Bitcoin that I highly encourage you guys to go check out. Gingerly, which is the other show that airs, because you're going to want to watch what my good friend Style Pigeon and Purple Suede had to say, right? Because those guys talked about some really good aspects of what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin. And I didn't want to cover that because guess what? We have a resource. So definitely go watch Gingerly. Definitely check out Roundly X. And I think you guys are going to be really, really surprised and happy. Now, let me end with this. Let me say this one last thing, because I like freezing time. Freeze time today. Today is November 20th. If we come back here, November 20th, 2023, do you think we're going to be higher or lower with Bitcoin? Listen, I'll give you my answer right now. I say we're going to be way higher than where we are right now. Will I come back and will there be like splotches of egg all over my face for saying that? Why don't you come back and tell me? You can also drop me a comment below this video or below on Twitter, or you can DM me, but let me know what you think. Next year, this time, November 20, 2023, do you think we're going to be higher or lower with the price of Bitcoin? And my hope is that all along the way, you guys were stacking sats and you'll come back. And I can hear a lot of success stories say, you know, Paul, I watched your Bitcoin Freedom show. I decided to just start stacking sats, $5 a day, right? That's $150 a month, right? Let's see where that goes. Who knows? It's something. It's better than nothing, right? Okay, folks. Hey, Nick, thank you so much for producing the show. Bitcoin Live has done an amazing job of producing these shows. If you guys want to follow me, you know where I am. I'm on Twitter at _CryptoCurator. And you can check out my website, thecryptocurator.com. It has 3 top news articles on there, a video and a podcast every day, helping you guys see what's being covered the most. And of course, you know what was last week, and I want to get into that. But yeah, I'll always do. I'm only putting on that website what most of the publications are publishing about. So if you check that out, I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. All right. Enjoy your Sunday. I'm going to go watch the Cowboys hopefully beat the Vikings. You guys have a great